we have a role to play.
Okay, Minister, yes. we have been talking about the minuses of this election. Let's look at the pluses. What are some of the pluses?
Yes, when you're talking about the positivity, the first positivity is the resilience of the political power players towards determination for nation building. That is the first one. All the power players, the political parties, the election umpire, the international observers, the security agencies, there is a sense of united sense of cohesion. They really put the interests of the nation over and above the individual responsibilities they are to discharge, because if they are to go in tandem with their individual responsibilities, wouldn't have gotten it successfully. For example, the Independent Electoral Commission brings about its budget. It needed about 240 or 24 billion as the budget to handle this election. The National Assembly did not reduce a kobo. The president approved it, and the whole money was released. That one is a sign of the interest of the nation. Okay. Secondly, the security agencies, there is something which I really suggest always that we should really put it in mind to really give a correction. If you take Section 29, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act, it predicates the responsibility of superintending the security during the electioneering process as a whole on the Independent Electoral Commission, which is an aberration because they don't have...
Okay, Minister, we'll take a pause. We'll pause you there.
Yes.
Because we want to join our Benin Network Center, where Agatha is standing by. They want to join in this discussion. Over to you, Agatha.
Thank you, Ademola. Thank you for joining us in Benin. Celebrations have continued here, and it's been quite peaceful. Supporters of the All Progressives Congress, that's the APC, they have been on the streets of Benin celebrating the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, let's see this road walk by led by the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, on major streets in Benin City.
This election was about the future of this country and the stability of the economy of this country. I am really excited that we have a future with the young ones and that Nigeria is bouncing back with consistency. The projects that he has started, especially the infrastructural development he has started, and making Nigeria self-sustaining in terms of agricultural produce and making all the manufacturing country. These projects he has started in the first term, definitely we are going to, if not see them through in the second term, but we'll have stabilized this project in our economy.
It's obvious that when you perform, you get rewards. And basically, the president has been doing very well, very well. And those who actually take decisions and those who lead, because politics in Nigeria is leadership directed, and most leaders know that Mr. President is performing, and on the strength of that they were able to educate, their followers, and thank God we are having him back. We all did well in Edo State, and we are proud of ourselves. And we also congratulate the national chairman, for producing a president.
Many residents in Edo Central Senatorial District have taken to the streets to celebrate President Muhammadu Buhari. They say his second term will enable him consolidate on foundation laid in his first tenure. Kelvin Ewunaye has a situation report of what is happening there.
The mood of the people here in Edo Central Senatorial District is that of celebration. As the news of Mr. President's victory filtered into town, Many of the APC supporters here took to the streets in jubilation. Many of them that I spoke with are confident that the second term of the president will afford him an opportunity to consolidate on the foundation that he laid in his first term.
And I think God has spoken. It's a sign that God actually loves this country.
Because he deserves a victory. He's a good man. He's a man of integrity, honesty, and transparency. He has won, and we congratulate him. It's a victory for democracy, victory for Nigeria.
No doubt, in the days to come, there will be more reaction to the outcome of this election. But for now, the sounds of victory is renting the air here. In Ado Central, Kelvin Abonwaye, NTA News.
Now, away from Edo State, residents of Akure in Ondo State have expressed confidence in the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari, saying that it will move the country to the next level of development. Olajide Bello takes us through that.
Thank you very much, Tidio. This is the popular Oba Adeshida Road here in Akure, the Ondo State capital. Now, we are here to sample the opinion of some residents of Akure on the announcement by INEC returning President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo for another 4 years.
I believe that Buhari won the election, and the election went free and fair, no ringing, nothing, no chaos everywhere. And we thank God for that we don't use our life to pay for the election.
Our appeal to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the Waziri of Adamawa, to concede defeat. He has tried, he has fought a good fight. For him to gather 11 million votes, it's not easy. He fought a good fight. He campaigned length and breadth of Nigeria to make sure he won. But now that the result have come the other way, I will appeal to him, to follow the suit of what Goodluck did and call Mr. President to congratulate him so that peace can reign. So that
we thank God, Nigerian citizen has given him the mandate. We are now moving to the next level. The next level is full of energy, good economy, good security. That is what is wrapped in the next level.
Away from Ondo State, let's take reactions from Delta State.
I'm right here at Nebisi Road, a popular road here in Asaba, the Delta State capital. As you can see behind me, I have a newspaper stand here where you have many Nigerians gathered discussing about the pronouncement of President Muhammadu Buhari as the president of Nigeria for another second term. Let's get their reaction.
Who God has chosen, he has chosen. There's nothing we can do about it. Who Nigeria, we have to accept it like that. We give glory to God.
We are blaming INEC for one thing or the other. But let's start from ourselves. Over 80 million people are registered. Less than 30 million people cast their vote. What is the problem? The problem is with us. People didn't come out to vote as such.
We are also right here at the popular and busy Obogonogo market to get the views of the Muslim community in this area.
Being Muslim or Christian or not, or from South, everybody that contributed his money, his energy and anything, we are thanking everybody. We are very, very happy that Buhari won again because he's the right person to take Nigeria to forward.
He should create employment for the unemployed, and he should be a good leader. That is all.
Any person that God says, let that person win.
So Mr. President always has wanted to write his name in posterity. That is what I urge him to do. Rejig your cabinet, have a good team that will work assiduously and conscientiously for this nation. And if for any reason you find a minister or any appointee that is not performing, you will that person up very speedily.
Okay. You've heard from some Asaba residents concerning the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari. From Asaba, I'm Austin Edemodo reporting for NTA News.
Thank you, Austin from Asaba. Now, the emergence of President Muhammadu Buhari as winner of last Saturday's presidential election is eliciting reactions from Nigerians, including traditional and religious leaders. Steve Lumai Wonkolu has details.
Speaking on President Muhammadu Buhari's re-election, the ex-Oba of Benin, Chief David Edebiri, says it is a welcome development and enjoins the president-elect to continue with the people's-oriented programs.
Telling people that Buhari means well for Nigeria. He deserves the cooperation of everybody. Now that the election is over, both the winners and the losers should come together to allow the present administration take us to the next level of peace, tranquility, and development. He should handle the states as he has been handling, and he should keep by his avowed promise to deal with corruption.
The spiritual leader of the Christ Chosen Church of God International, most senior Apostle David Umefe, appeals to the president-elect to unite the country.
The now re-elected president should place this politics above region and borders and ethnicity. Should place it above that. Should know that he is the president of one country called Nigeria. He should also abide by the rule of the Constitution, which says that Nigeria is a secular state where everyone has freedom of speech, of religion, of assembly, etc.
They pray for peace and progress of the country.
Well, that's the situation in this zone. Ademola, if you can hear me, in the midst of the celebrations, there are some issues people have thrown, and one of them is the turnout of voters. I don't know, this question is directed to any of your guests there. How can we correct this, considering the fact that we have another round of elections just around the corner?
Well, thank you, Agatha, for that question. And I think we earlier discussed it, but I will want Nasara to please touch on that.
It's all right. Well, voters' apathy is really something very fundamental for every meaningful citizen to be worried about. If we want to solve the problem of voters' apathy in future, you see, the pattern of the electioneering campaign this time around was more or less not issue-centered. Politicians should be able to be presenting real serious issues before the electors, so as to be able to ginger the confidence of the electors. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Section 221 to 229, talks about activities of political parties. Under these activities, if you take Section 224, it talks about specifically the need for the politicians to respect Part 2 of the Constitution. Part 2 talks about sections 3 down to about sections 24. All these are talking about the interests of national peace, national unity, national cohesion, sense of belonging. Even under it, for example, Section 10 talks about prohibition of state religion. So the need for you to discourage issue of linking your electioneering campaign with a religious leaning. The issue of tribal belonging, the issue of, for example, if you take Section 14, subsection 3, it talks about the issue of national character. National character. So to the you have to jettison the interest of what tribe did you belong to, what section did you belong to, what religion are you practicing. If you take Section 15, subsection 2, it even gives about of the need for all inclusiveness, where it talks about the need for you to really galvanize your interests and aspirations to others. That is one. Secondly, the way the political electioneering campaign went about is equally another thing that the political structures should really look into. Because the fundamental function of political party is education of the electorate, education of the citizenry. You discover that the political parties have abdicated from this responsibility.
So
as a matter of fact,
talking about emphasizing voters' education.
Apart from that, even the operational structure of the political system is another thing I'm talking about.
Okay,
if you look at it,
we'll come back to that.
Yes, let me land on this point. If you look at it, the electioneering campaign organization of all the electorates has diverged itself from the party structure. The party should be the one that should be the leading architecture for electioneering campaign of any aspirant, so that the aspirant will see himself as a passenger in the vehicle of the political party, because the political party is a candidate, not the individual. The individual is a beneficiary.
Okay, thank you very much, Minasara, for that contribution. Now let's go to Boma now. I mean, if you watched the reports there, you can see a lot of excitement, jubilation, and many of them are hoping and believing and trusting that the president will consolidate on the gains recorded in the past 3 or 4 years now. What would be your own advice to that?
Well, I think we tend to put far too much faith and far too much emphasis on one individual, which is the president. The gentleman, and hopefully one day lady, has to work in a team and will only achieve as much as his team can achieve. What has changed? He's been re-elected. We have to work on our processes. We have to energize our people. I engage with the civil service. They're very dispirited. I go to some of their offices. I see how poorly equipped those offices are. You have to be people-centered in order to get the best out of people. And so, as a government, as a nation, we have to refocus on our people in order to see true change and to get the best out of our citizens. So, talking about voter apathy, one thing is, policy, whatever. The other is the actual process. The process is painful to the citizen. I went through it. So the focus should be on making it painless. And that way, it's not mandatory. It's a duty, but if I have to go back there 2-3 times, for some people, that's enough to put them off. And these are some of the challenges in trying to get citizen engagement in issues that government is a part of. The focus is not sufficiently on the citizen and ensuring that the process is painless, which is a significant factor in voter apathy.
Okay, good. We'll come back. I think my colleague is still in Benin, Agatha, and she has one more question that she wants to ask. Agatha, you're on.
Thank you, Demola. Actually, I don't have any question. Just wanted to say thank you to you and your guests for taking up issues thrown up in reports from our zone. We'll be feeding you with the situation as time goes on, but bye for now.
Okay, thank you, Agatha, for that. Let's look at this election. Many people have adjudged it as free, fair, and credible. Why would you say that? What are the reasons for this?
Well, Ademola, the thing is this. The election, for it to be credible, free and fair, you have to look at the entire process and the reports from the umpire, that is INEC, and also observers, both home and foreign observers. Now, what are the indices? The election has to substantially comply with the election laws. That means the INEC Act, the guidelines, rules and regulations. And of course, not forgetting other laws relevant to our conduct of our life, and in this case, in this particular, the election, that's constitution and the rest. So, if the election has not substantially complied with this set of laws that I mentioned, the INEC would have been able to conclude the process, or a winner would have been able to emerge. That is one. That is one indicator you look at to find out whether the election was somewhat credible. Now, we have to also have it at the back of our mind. There is no perfect election anywhere, not even here in Nigeria, anywhere in the world. Then you have to do comparison analysis also with past elections. Now, violence, for example, rigging, disruption of election voting places, these are all factors that discredit an election. You have to look at the preponderance of these occurrences. You know, not forgetting we are a nation of about 180 to 200 million people, 774 local governments, 36 states plus FCT, and also about 119,000 polling booths. So anything that is man relationship, you are bound to have hitches. That is given. But can we say the hitches are substantially to render the entire conduct of what you did not credible? That is the question. To me, I will find an answer in the negative. In the negative, that this the failures, the factors that emphasize failures of a system like an election are such, you know, are not, and I'm not trying to underplay, for example, areas where we have loss of lives, loss of property. No, like Madam Boma said, even one loss of life is a concern. It should be a concern for the entire country, for the leadership, for the commission, and for everybody involved. But like I said, it's a matter of comparative analysis. So when you compare, for example, the rivers where we have most of the recorded violence we have this time around in rivers, you go back in time and compare it to 2015, you find that the violence in 2015 was even more than this one. In fact, there was a by-election. INEC for 3 times couldn't conduct it. They kept going and coming back. They couldn't conduct it because of violence, because the people it's a really rough terrain for politicians and for people living in the area, for electorates. So now you look at also the issue of the cases of rigging the election. That means tampering with the voting system and disruption. We have seen the Constellation Council votes, and that is now a question for a lot of people. And she made mention of that it's actually worried that we have about a figure like 1 million plus of council votes, which are called rejected votes, which are from either overvoting or areas where they deliberately refuse to use the card reader. The INEC said it has its own guidelines. If a card reader, for example, malfunction, not due to fault of the electorates, the INEC is required to now have to conduct another election, which they did that in most cases, in most places on Sunday. But where people deliberately refuse to use the card reader as a means of identifying it. And not forgetting also, the use of the card reader is not, in the eyes of the law, if you challenge someone, you know, a result for the lack of use, there is a Supreme Court decision which says we can't, that is not a law to us. It's just an INEC guideline. Now, no, let me land. Just sorry.
You will land because we need to hook up to our Maiduguri network center where Mohammed Ibrahim is standing by. Mohammed.
Presidential and National Assembly elections are finally over with the declaration of results and emergence of winners. This has put to rest years of planning by the electoral umpire INEC, stakeholders, and citizens. It was peaceful elections in this part of the country. Coalition was also rancor-free, and now it is festive mood, particularly here in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. We will bring you reports on reactions trailing the result declaration and the celebration galore, as well as studio discussion. In the studio for the discussion are Elder Statesman Dr. Blama Malik Gubio, MNI, spokesperson, Borno Elders Forum. Welcome to Nigeria Sides.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also, Zanna Hassan Boguma, this Zanna Boguma of Borno.
Thank you.
Let's start by, how did Nigerians react to the results of elections and declaration of winners?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yesterday I was sitting throughout the night. I thought I was the only one who was watching the NTA Nigeria Decides. As soon as the results were announced, I heard shouts of joy outside around 5 a.m. before the morning prayer. Okay. And when I went out, I saw young people, they were gathered as early as 5 a.m. in the morning. Up to this moment, they are celebrating in the streets of Maiduguri. If you are not careful, they will knock you down. All the Kekena Pep, the young people, the IDPs, everybody, the whole city is just like one Salah, big Salah festival. We are very, very happy. The people of Borno are extremely happy because they have a reason to be happy because Buhari is their savior, he's their son, is their father, is their guardian, and his victory is the victory for all of us, all Nigerians, and we're extremely happy.
All right. What's your submission?
Well, in fact, we are highly elated because since early in the morning today, the young ones, as he said, were celebrating. And Buhari's victory is victory for the masses of this country because we have seen in him a leader and we have seen in him an emancipator, and he has done quite a lot, particularly to the northeast. And the only thing that had endeared him to us all is the problem that we have. Everybody knows that here we are having the problem of insurgency, and ever since his assumption as president of this country, the insurgency had greatly been degraded, and our local governments that were hitherto under the occupation of the Boko Haram were also liberated. So there is every cause for celebration, and the election in Borno was an election that has shown the whole world that the Borno people stand with him and will always stand by him.
Exactly. Okay. Now let's watch this report on reactions of Nigerians to the declaration of results. Over to Pauline Kujevana, our correspondent.
People did not sleep in Maiduguri as celebrations started immediately after the announcement of outcome of Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections. Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, is peaceful and calm. As it is, the declaration has triggered celebrations in every nook and cranny of the state. We have Nigerians who will tell us their feelings concerning the outcome of the results.
My name is Bukar Kasim. I'm very, very happy. Now we are in next level. I'm a 2016 Empower beneficiary. I'm very, very happy to the re-election of Mr. President.
Wanda sun samu muna taya su murna. Mu kuma muna cikin murna da muke taya su da wanda ban samu kuma su bada haɗin kai a samu zaman lafiya.
I like to congratulate the president for winning this election. And as I have seen it, the election is orderly and peaceful.
There is not any violence. Everywhere people are happy and celebrating.
The physically challenged were also happy with the outcome of the presidential and National Assembly elections result conducted last Saturday, and they pray for robustful and successful Nigeria. In Maiduguri, Pauline Kujevana, NTA News.
Thank you, Pauline. Residents of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, have turned celebration mood on for the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari. Jesse Tavida went around the metropolis and filed in this report.
Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, have been transited into a celebration mood, even as they celebrate the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari. NTA camera lens captured young and old who spent the night outside their homes waiting for the declaration and chanting 4+4. A cross-section of supporters kept raising brooms, which is the symbol of the winning party, APC. As fans and supporters of the president couldn't hold back their joy as they took to the streets of Maiduguri, dancing and cheering the victory of the political father. The street of Maiduguri is partially empty, just like a work-free day, as people are celebrating the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari. In Maiduguri, I'm Jesse Tafida, NTA News.
Thank you, Jesse. In this next report, politicians have been charged to eschew bitterness and embrace the spirit of sportsmanship for the overall development of the country. Amina Fide Ahmadu reports.
Sportsmanship or fair play has been a good omen for sporting activities, which has been advocated in politics for smooth transition. One of the proponents of sportsmanship in politics was the late Waziri Ibrahim's promoted slogan, politics without bitterness. Politics without bitterness requires fair play from the point of politicking or campaigning up to the stage of accepting the result or outcome of the election process.
Democracy is part of the process of governance, as we all know, and it's one of the most ideal way of choosing our leaders. And since we all agree on this, we have to respect the process. And the process involves going through the electorate to determine the winner. And now the winner is announced. So for every true Democrat, we just have to accept the verdict. In case if you have any grievances, let's take the best option. And that is taking it to the court of law in order to get your mandate back.
And I'm calling on the politicians, they should see that all their followers are calm. They too, they have to be calm and accept whatsoever the result is. Because if really we are fighting for the cause of the common man, I don't see the need for us to fight. So it is better for us to sit down, to come to a round table. How do we develop Nigeria, not yourself?
When some party abunda zamu ce su yi hakuri dama shi kullum din kullum ba juma'a bane. Wani lokaci zaka ci, wani lokaci zaka fade. Saboda haka su yi hakuri su ma nasu zai zo gaba.
There's an adage which also say that in any contest there is going to be a winner and a learner. We expect that those people that have lost, they're supposed to be a learner. They're supposed to learn from their mistake, and of course, embrace that yes, they have lost, and of course, they're supposed to focus the issue of peace, nation building.
It is hoped that with the peace accord signed, politicians will abide by the rules. In Maiduguri, Amina Fide Ahmadu, NTA News.
Thank you, Amina. And we now turn again to our discussion segment. What does it take for Nigerians to accept the fact that the spirit of sportsmanship could be exhibited in the game of politics?
Well, Nigerians are highly religious, as you know. Power always comes from Allah. Yeah. And as believers in divinity, we must have to accept that. And because of that, all politicians, particularly those that have lost in the last polls, must have to embrace the spirit of sportsmanship. Because by embracing that, you are now showing to the people that yes, you are a politician and you have accepted fate as your guiding principle. Nigeria is a country where politicians have a lot of, insinuations pertaining who wins and who loses. But in our own case, we are appealing to them, particularly to the opposition party, the PDP, to accept the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari as a victory from God, because you have seen how people have been now expressing their happiness for the election, and you have seen how jubilation and celebrations were carried out throughout the country. Therefore, I am appealing to the opposition to at least embrace that spirit of sportsmanship and accept the defeat and congratulate the president, so that they all should come together to build Nigeria into a prosperous and egalitarian nation.
All right, thank you. And to the elder statesman, how can we imbibe the culture of politics without bitterness as we nurture the nation's nascent democracy?
Well, we are the oracles of politics without bitterness. The late Waziri Ibrahim, of blessed memory, or the man who preached politics without bitterness. So it started from Borno. Now we are on the path to find our lost glory. President Muhammadu Buhari got over 1.5 million votes from the South, from the 11 states of the South. During the last election, he got very little. Now Nigerians are embracing one another. We are now tracing our steps back to where we started. We are becoming one again. We are becoming together. So our leaders should eschew bitterness. All the bitterness they are showing translate to the fact that they are not good leaders. Any leader who cannot control his temper, who cannot control his ambition, who feels that he is God, who feels that he cannot accept the wish of God, is irreligious, and he is not supposed to be a leader. Therefore, if you want to be a leader in the future, and if you want to be accepted by the people, you should accept the wish of God, because God decides who will be your leader. And God has already decided that Muhammadu Buhari should be our president for the next 4 years. I would like to appeal to all Nigerians to eschew bitterness, accept defeat. The system itself has encouraged this. Array of lawyers and array of judges are already waiting to receive cases. Because, and in our religion, God says he is the one who has the powers. He gives power to whom he wills. He denies power to whom he wills. And God has given power to whom he wishes. And now you said, okay, God has given Muhammadu Buhari power. I don't agree. I will go to the court and snatch it from him. That is irreligious. So we are men of and women of faith. We should abide by the instructions of our faith, accept defeat, let our people go, let everybody be peaceful, let us face our problems, let us mend our ways, reintegrate one again. In the next 4 years, come out again and seek for the mandate of the people. If they find that you are a very kind person, very humble person, patient person, if you come out in the next 4 years, they will accept you. But if you start fighting from now, from this court to that court, from that court to this court, and instigate people on religious, tribal lines, it will not take us anywhere. If you really want to be a leader, and if you want to be considered as a leader, you must accept leadership. Leadership is not just by pretension. Leadership is by example. Leadership is by showing to the people that you can be their leader. You can lead them to a safer path of development. And I heard people calling about devolution of power, inclusion. For the last 3 days, I've been listening to NTA. People are calling for inclusion. What is inclusion? For me, inclusion is the social welfare of the people. Good schools, affordable health care, good agricultural development, water supply, railways, roads, infrastructure for the poor. The lives of Nigerians should be enhanced everywhere throughout the Federation. That is inclusion. Simply because you want to be a minister or you want to be somebody from your section, so if you are appointed a minister, your people are included. But what do you do for your people? No. When you are appointed a minister, you take care of only your family. Only those who are around you, and abandon the people. And next time you come and say, inclusion. What is inclusion? Inclusion is that people should be taken care of by the government throughout the Federation in terms of infrastructure, in terms of healthcare, education, nutrition, everything, so that all Nigerians will be doing something to earn their living. That is inclusion.
People-oriented.
People-oriented programs is what I call inclusion, not appointments. Okay. Well, because when myself and yourself, somebody, those of us who feel we are educated, who feel we are big, we go and get big positions. We say, we are included. What kind of inclusion is that? The inclusion should translate to the life of the people, not inclusion by appointment of some so-called leaders of society.
Okay, thank you, Lasesman. And Bazana, what is the role of leaders of thought and community leaders in ensuring peaceful transition by calming nerves of civic population and aggrieved parties?
The community leaders and the leaders of thought have enormous responsibilities, particularly in this era of parochialism and sentiments. The politicking towards the 2019 general election had made all of us to think that Nigeria is at the brink of disintegration, because men of God, particularly the clergies, both sides, have shifted their sermons, preachings, and teachings from the pulpit to the outside roads, calling on people to support party A, party B, and what have you. But sincerely, this is not what they should do. Our traditional institution is there always guiding people to the right path. They have been there to maintain peace, stability, and security of their people. Likewise, that is what is expected of our leaders of thought. So I am advising our leaders of thought and community leaders to imbibe the spirit and culture of asking their people to act with decorum, because politicians tend to thwart whatever that is there in the name of their interest. And in order for us to protect the interest of our societies, we must have to be proactive in calling on our people to always act accordingly, and they should always be people that can do, not mar, because that is the problem that we have seen during the electioneering campaign. So many of the leaders of thought were, tilting towards, one politician or the other, and that is not good, and it will not augur well for the society. Our founding fathers, who have fought hard to get us independence, have established so much for us to follow. But unfortunately, the likes of the politicians that we have now have derailed on the path set for us by our founding, because nationalism and patriotism, these two are very, very important. And that is what we saw in some of them, but many have already reneged from that. Therefore, we are calling on our politicians as well as on the leaders of thought, both community leaders and religious leaders, to come out, tell their people to at least act in accordance with the dictates of the laws of the land, and not fueling crisis, not asking people to take the law into their hands, because the law enforcement agents were there. And once something happens, though I know politicians will interpret it into something, but this shouldn't happen. It is the responsibility of the leaders of thought, it is the responsibility of traditional rulers, it is the responsibility of other community leaders and our elders to stand up, to talk to the people, to accept faith as the guiding principle in whatever that we do in this country.
All right, thank you. There is a psyche now in society, and how can we change that psyche, which is the logic of winner wins all and loser loses all, so as to reduce the desperation in the politics?
Well, that is the type of inclusion I'm talking about. President Buhari, from the last 4 years we have seen, has accommodated everybody. Some of the people who were holding very high-ranking positions in his government were not in his party, were not even party men. He appointed them on the basis of merit. Winner takes all means it is only party members who are going to get appointments. It is not like that. I worked under Buhari in the Northeast. In fact, from Musa Usman, from Buhari to Idi Abon to date, I have been working with all the governors in this state. I know President Muhammad Buhari from his days as a colonel, as a governor, to date. He is a very good man, a pious man, a man who values your sense of uprightness, a man who values incorrigibility. And he himself is incorrigible, and he always encourages hard work and dedication to duty. If you are hardworking, dedicated to duty, and if you can produce results, President Buhari will always accommodate you in his administration. So let us have on our own capabilities, our own way of accepting responsibility given to us, so that we align with his type of incorruptible government, and then we continue with him. Otherwise, even if you are a party man, I don't think Buhari can accommodate you. So winner takes all is not his policy. And winner takes all is not even the policy of Nigeria. Let us see, there are some countries we can take example from. 24 years ago, there was no Rwanda. Today, Rwanda is the cleanest city in Africa. Number 2 or 3 in Africa in terms of this, because there is inclusion, there is nothing like winner takes all. The party which wins will take 51%. The parties that lose, all of them will take 49%. 51% for the winning party, 49% for all the losing parties. That is what they do in Rwanda. Here we can accommodate very responsible persons from the other parties. And he can do that. I know he can do that. So winner takes all is not Nigerian. It is not African even. Okay. We accommodate our brothers.
Okay, let's get your thoughts on that.
Well, that is the spirit, because in politics, people tend to believe that once you win an elective position, you try to appease all the members of your parties and supporters. But as Abulama had rightly said, President Muhammadu Buhari is different from other leaders that we know. Except for General Sani Abacha, I have never seen somebody in a leader of this nation that has Nigeria at heart more than General Muhammadu Buhari. So therefore, I think, as he said, most of those appointed in this present government many of them were not from APC. Some of them were, brought from outside. So therefore, I am advising that, yes, we should, at least for the spirit of togetherness and for understanding and cooperation, they should be brought in, those that are responsible to also assist in moving the country forward.
Thank you, Bazana, and thank you, Elastisman.
Thank you.
Well, celebration continues and people remain peaceful. Congratulations, Nigerians, on the eventful election outing. That's all we can take from Maiduguri studio of Nigeria Decides. It is now back to Abuja.
Thank you, Mohammed, for that discussion there. And as you could see, a lot of jubilation and excitement, even in Maiduguri, all over the country, over the outcome of this election. Before we joined Maiduguri, you were speaking on the credibility of this election, the fairness, and but you were going to land.
Yeah.
So let me allow you to land.
I doubt if people will really remember where I actually stopped. I mean, do I need an executive somebody to recap a little bit?
Just a little bit of recap.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
So that they would know when I land. They will know. They will not think I was coming from nowhere.
Okay. Fine.
All right. So what I'm saying, Demola, is this: when we compare this election that happened with past elections, especially the immediate past one, when we're talking about the credibility of an election, there are factors to consider. Occurrences of violence, ballot snatching, suppression of voters, rigging, disruption of the election. Now, from the records and reports we have, irrespective of the council votes that Boma talked about at the beginning of the program, which of course majority had to do with the electorate's refusal and deliberate attempt to circumvent the issue of using the card reader system. If we look beyond that one, we will now find that the past incidents of disruption of elections, riggings, and things like that, we are more preponderant in the past election than this one. So if we have said 2015 has some measures of credibility, free and fairness, what should we call an election that at least the indices indicates that the negative ones in the last one in 2015 were more than now, meaning this one was more freer, despite the fact that we have pockets of violence here and there, and a big one from Rivers State, loss of life, but we had more of those negatives in 2015. Okay. So, in my humble opinion, I feel that this election 2019 was more credible, free and freer than the past one. Of course, there is always room for an improvement.
Okay, thank you, Aliyu, for that. Now, Minasara, well, let's look at the pockets of violence that were recorded in some states, and also the issue of ballot box snatching and all that. How would you reconcile that with this argument that the security agents should be excused from our election?
Well, I don't think we are civilized enough to say completely we will insulate our electioneering processes away from security, because if you take even the provisions of the Electoral Act, Section 29(3) of the Electoral Act predicates the power on the Independent Electoral Commission to superintend security operations during election. And as a matter of fact, Section 150 even gives them the power to prosecute. Now, if you are to do that one, you will discover that in the field, if you take only the electoral officers, they are having the power by the law, like I cited, but they do not have the personnel to enforce the law. So if you have the power but without the personnel to enforce the law, then they will have to rely on the traditional institution that has the responsibility for security, which is as per provision of Section 214 to 216, which is predicated on the Nigerian police. Okay. Except where, for example, it is too much for the police, because obviously it is too much for the police. The population of our police is just about 400,000 policemen. Out of these 400,000, half of them have been attached to Mr. Somebody's as their orderlies. And half of the remaining 200,000 have been deployed to various corporate institutions, ambassadorial, diplomatic missions, banks, and the rest of it. You'll discover a very negligible personnel of the police are even available for that. Now, this negligible number, they will have to go and invoke the provision of Section 217 to 219, meaning they will have to call upon the other members of the armed forces to come and complement this their responsibility. Now, in complementing this responsibility, there are a lot of things that have become sort of diversionary software. The INEC is responsible for coordination. These ones are there, and they said, don't go with your arms and ammunition. If you take, for example, Police Act, Section 4 of the Police Act, with the exclusive power of the police to maintain peace and security, and going by the provisions of Sections 24, 26 of the same Police Act, they have the power to even arrest, to even detain. Even Section 60 of the Police Act gives them the power to even penalize there instantly. Okay. But they do not have the power because it is domiciled on the police. Now, this is the reason why you will see one fundamental thing which is to be really, we need to really take care of that. That is the issue of boat snatching, the issue of thuggery. The issue of thuggery, for example, if we take the Electoral Act, the same provision of Section 81, it has given a provision on that. Section 92 has given prohibition of possession of arms, whether it's cutlass, whether it's a knife, whether it's gun. Okay. And Section 93 even prohibits gangsterism with the use of force in order to either burn a place or whatever. But above all this analysis, the most fundamental thing is absence of deterrence, okay, absence of enforcement. People have perpetrated violence in the 2015 election. I remember there was somebody even that wanted to turn the country upside down during the coalition. Okay. Nothing has happened to him. He is now a free citizen. You will discover people perpetrating violence with impunity, and nothing is happening to them. We need to see earlier on something fundamental happened, the need for this electoral offenses tribunal, with the same politicians kick against it. Okay. Now we do not have any of this. So I want the 128, the Inspector General of Police said have been apprehended, to really be penalized, okay, so that we will see the end of this kind of
So we're going to continue on that,
yes,
that line of discussion,
okay,
when we come back from Sokoto Network Center, where Jubrila is standing by. Jubrila, what is the situation in Sokoto?
Thank you, Ademola. Sokoto, in the Sokoto, we're having reports from Kebbi and Zamfara State on the action of the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari. But before then, I will introduce our guest in the studio. We have Dr. Yahaya Tonku Baba, Head of Department, Political Science, Usman Nfodio University, Sokoto. Doctor, you are welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And we have Mansour Isa Buhari, Public Affairs Analyst, who is also a lecturer with Usman Nfodio University, Sokoto.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
Nigerians from all walks of life have been reacting to the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari at the polls. Nura Tanko Wakili has a report from Kebbi State.
Nigerians from Kebbi State have joined their counterparts across the country in expressing their views on the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari for the second term.
If we look at the present administration, what the administration intends to do, what it's doing, I would say to a very large extent, I will borrow the word of the other party that Nigeria is on the next level. This is a very great achievement and it's a very good success. It is a deserved victory. From the onset of these campaigns, Nigerians have realized that President Muhammadu Buhari is going to be re-elected. And this is exactly what happened.
Well, the victory is not for APC alone. It is not for Muhammadu Buhari as president alone. But it's the victory of all those who wish Nigeria well. All those who are working day and night to move Nigeria forward, to see Nigeria is secured, to see that Nigeria become one of the best country, not in Africa, but all over the world. On the expectations, Nigerians in Kebbi State expressed their views.
To be frank, he has started so many things, and we expect the consolidation of his achievements. First of all, the issue of economy. He has really done, particularly fighting corruption and poverty eradication or poverty reduction programs.
We expect for the next 4 years, please let things be better. We believe his promises for the first time, he's going to do it this second time. We've given him the second chance. We Nigerians, both the people that voted him in and the people that didn't vote him in, please, we are begging Mr. President to take good care of us.
The good thing about the election, according to some of the respondents, is the peaceful manner in which the processes were conducted. And to them, the process was devoid of rancor, except for a fraction of violence experienced in some parts of the country. In Birnin Kebbi, Noratan Kwakili, NTA News.
The victory of President Muhammadu Buhari has been described as a victory for Nigerians. A cross-section of people in Zamfara State made the remark while reacting to the declaration of President Buhari as winner in the 2019 general election. Jamilu Ibrahim has more.
The declaration of the APC presidential candidate Muhammadu Buhari as the winner of the 2019 presidential election has been greeted with the joy and accolade by people in Zamfara State. People, especially the APC supporters, converged on the state secretariat of the party to congratulate one another on what they described as a well-deserved victory.
We have every reason to be happy, and we have every cause to be happy. We work hard, tirelessly, to see that Baba Buhari everybody should be proud of. And it's a big thing that everybody should have a sense of belonging.
The party's stalwarts and supporters maintain that the victory is for all Nigerians. In Gusau, Jamilu Ibrahim, NTA News.
Now to our discussion. I will start with you, Dr. Yahya Tanko Baba. The results of the 23rd February presidential election has been released, and President Muhammadu Buhari returned elected. What is your feelings about this development?
Well, it's a very important development. First, we began a process, and the process is concluded, particularly at this level. I mean, for a very long period of time, the electoral umpire, the election management body, INEC, has had to put in place quite a number of arrangements and preparations to give Nigerians the chance to cast their ballots and choose leaders in this round of elections. And aside from the postponement of the election on the eve of it, that is to say 3 a.m. of 16th April 2019, Nigerians are really a bit impressed with the outing of INEC as far as the conduct of this round of elections are concerned. So we can say that Nigeria is a proud nation, that we have started a process and we have completed that process. It is a contest between and among Nigerians, and the Nigerians were represented by platforms and parties. It was a contest that was very keen. It was a contest that was very tight, and the peaceful conduct of the elections is one of the greatest achievement of Nigeria as a nation. We know what it means to conduct the elections in Nigeria. But this time around, the country, the government, the electoral empire, the security agencies, and even the teeming Nigerian population recognize and appreciate the need to conduct themselves peacefully in their determination to make their choice among contending preferences. And thank God the process commenced with hitches, but at the end of the day, Nigerians emerged victorious because the process is concluded and the winner is announced. It's now left, for instance, for the opposition, for the leading contender to decide what to do. There are two ways. Either way, it's a victory for Nigeria. If either for the leading opposition party and the candidate to accept and congratulate the president and rest the matter there, or choose to challenge procedurally and legally the victory of the APC and Muhammadu Buhari's election in the court of law. Either way, it is acceptable, it's democratic, and it will also contribute to the growth and development of Nigeria's democratic culture. So we are really happy that we began a process on our own, and that process is completed, and Nigerians are actually united in their fold to say that this is a democracy we envisage, and this is a democracy that belongs to every one of us, and this will require collective effort and collective commitment to deepen and broaden democratic governance in Nigeria. And this is the way to do it. But what I want to say is that Nigerians are fond of only giving emphasis to democracy when it comes to electioneering campaigns and election proper. We do not give attention to what elected official does within the period of their stewardship. So that is what we call governance audit. Now this is the beginning of another important milestone in our democratic development. Those that are elected into office, the president and members of the National Assembly, their scorecard should show at the end of their stewardship. And this should be the basis upon which they are rated, whether or not that platform, that party, that individual that was elected and given opportunity to serve for 4 years have actually as a person and collectively as a party delivered on their own promises. If not, Nigerians have opportunity in the next, because elections are conducted at regular intervals. And 4 years it's not a very long period of time. And Nigerians will keep memory of what has transpired within this period, and they will come back to polls and decide whether or not to choose the party, to choose the candidates, to choose the coalitions, to choose the platforms that actually had opportunity for stewardship within a particular period of time.
Thank you. Malam Mansour, what are the expectations of Nigerians now that a president has been elected?
I think Nigerians have always had high hopes in President Buhari, and this will only compound his problems if he doesn't perform well as a president. They call the next step the next level, and Nigerians have to move to the next level in a positive way. There are so many expectations, and you know, when there are so many expectations, it is much easier to disappoint. So President Buhari must sit up, look at the issue of economy more seriously, look at the issue of security more seriously. Job creation must be given priority, and we must also revamp our educational system, or the education as a whole. So President Buhari has a Herculean task ahead of him of making sure that Nigerians do not regret giving him a second chance. Not all people have a second chance in their life, and President Buhari has been given a second chance by Nigerians amidst all the criticisms and all the political ups and downs that almost cost him his seat. So there are so many issues he must address as a president. He must sit up. There are complaints about him being cornered by a set of people, which we call the cabals. He has complained many times about saboteurs in his government or saboteurs across the country. It is not time for rhetoric. It is time for action now. The president must be seen as a president. He must bring out that power that the Constitution has given to him as a president, and he must act. He must act fast or swiftly. He must act justly, and he must continue to be the honest person that we know him to be. He must consider the whole of Nigeria in his appointments, in his projects, and he must make sure that whoever goes against the law is punished regardless of the relationship between them, regardless of where he comes from, and regardless of how highly placed he is. So Nigeria is supposed to move, of course, to the next level, but in a positive way.
Okay. Dr. Hayato Kubaba, taking a look at a long list of candidates in this election, I think 73, there was only one woman. And from the reports we saw on Saturday, there was a large turnout of women voters. It seems women are not using their numerical strength for an advantage. What could be responsible for this, and what is the way out?
Well, let me first make this point. People are fond of saying that the turnout was massive. It wasn't massive. It wasn't even impressive. You know, when you see long queues at the beginning of the elections, everybody was really jubilating and saying that Nigeria's democracy has come of age because the turnout is impressive, the turnout is massive. But when you look at the results and you look at the figures and statistics of those who actually collected their PVCs, and those who appeared for accreditation at the poll, at the polling units, and those who actually voted across the states, 36 states and FCT, if you take the whole statistics, we have less than 50%, maybe 40% of those who are eligible to vote, those who collected their PVC actually turned up to vote. And therefore, the danger that we are drifting in as a democracy, as a people, as a nation, is that there is now an emerging trend of voter apathy. And this is also very dangerous for democratic governance. If people do not show interest in the way in which they are governed, or show interest even in their determination to choose who governs them, then there is trouble. There is complete disenchantment on the part of the people about the system itself. This is a verdict that is passed on the political system itself, not on an individual, not on one party, not on one platform. Coming to the issue of women, of course, the long list itself is unnecessary, because we have seen too many long lists of political parties that are non-performing. It created a lot of problems even for enlightened and educated voters to make choice among a long list of party candidates. 73 on presidential elections. Well, in the whole of, in one state, you will see one candidate scoring less than 20 votes in the whole of the state. You know, this is very unnecessary. And you look at it, you have women presidential aspirants. And women are naturally very easy to convince and to influence in as far as voting is concerned. You know, I wouldn't want to say that, but gender people will say it, that their emotions are a bit high. You know, when they have stakes, they insist. So they turn out. But we are not seeing women making mark. We are not even seeing solidarity in terms of gender relations. You know, what is really the problem? If there are this tendency that the woman folk, if actually structurally marginalized or excluded in the Nigeria's political process, whatever is the case, what we have to understand is the numerical strength of the women, and women must be on the agenda of Nigeria's development. And to be on the agenda, women themselves have to make their voice clear, have to articulate their concerns, and actually advertise those concerns to those platforms, to those parties, to those candidates. They should be seen in the front banner, asking for quite a number of things that will make the society better, because they are central as far as society is concerned. They occupy a strategic position in the family system, and the family as a unit makes the whole nation, and they are not part of the process.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Malam Mansour. People's reaction to this kind of development in different ways. Some with rough driving leading to accidents and death. What is your advice to Nigerians on this?
I think it is good to celebrate when something good happens, but we have to do it in a cautious way so that we don't cause more problems. We have to be alive to witness the good government, if that is what we, good governance, if that is what we expect from leaders. So going to risk our lives, playing recklessly with vehicles it is highly dangerous. People should celebrate victory in a more mature way. You can gather with a group of friends and family to enjoy some time. And what I want to call on Nigerians, it is not just enough to celebrate and it dies there, just like Doctor said. What is important is we have to keep a watchful eye on how we are governed by the federal and state governments. We must be very careful and keen in what is happening around governance-wise so that we can have a stake as people who have voted for these people. We need to ask questions and demand answers from these leaders. We are not supposed to be sentimental about things just because, for example, the president or the governor comes from my own side of the country or of the state. Whatever he does is okay, and I don't care to ask questions why are things done the wrong way. I think that is the biggest celebration we should give ourselves.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mansur. Let's take these two reports then before we close. Election observers in Sokoto State have commended INEC for the successful conduct of the 2019 presidential and national assembly elections. Sadia Umar Digi reports.
17 civil society organizations, which formed the 116 accredited domestic observers, participated in the electoral process in the state. The observers unanimously acknowledged the efforts and the appropriate preparations put in place by the commission before the election. They attested that the deployment of both election materials and personnel to the 23 local governments of the state was done in good time, and election began in most of the polling units between 8 and 9, with few reported cases of late commencement. Despite adequate provisions of security, the group noticed breach of security in some polling units, which led to violence and hijacking of ballot boxes by party thugs, resulting to cancellation in such polling units.
Above all, we commend the Independent National Electoral Commission for their ability to conduct this election in spite of some challenges. The issue of security should be well tackled to ensure the safety of citizens.
The group, however, called for more aggressive voter education in subsequent elections to sensitize the public on party logo for proper identification during voting. In Sokoto, Sadia Omodigi, NTA News.
The federal government has been commended for non-interference in the presidential and national assembly election in Nigeria. A group of election observers who monitored the election in Kebbi State made the commendation while briefing newsmen in Birnin Kebbi. Usman Abdullahi Shehu has a report.
The group of observers comprises domestic and foreign, commended the Independent National Electoral Commission for providing election materials in good time. Most of the polling unit in Kebbi State. The leader, Dr. Okiroro Igbe, said most of the areas visited by the team, election was peaceful and the turnout was impressive.
The team of election observers observed that the INEC provided necessary logistics to organize the conduct credible presidential and national elections in Kebbi State without interference. Our team observed every process as follows. 1. INEC was committed to conduct a free, fair, and credible elections in Kebbi State by providing a level playing ground for all political parties that participated in the federal elections.
He, however, called for more voter education in the country. Dr. Ibe advised candidates that participated in the exercise to accept the result in good faith for the progress of Nigeria. He said the group noted the failure of some card readers that were later rectified. In Birnin Kebbi, Usman Abdullahi Shehu, NTA News.
Dr. Tanko Yahya Baba, thank you for coming to the studio of Nigeria Decides in Sokoto.
It's a pleasure to be with Nigerians at this decisive moment.
Madam Mansur Isa Buhari, thank you for coming to Nigeria Decides in Sokoto.
Thank you, Madam.
That is all what we can take from Sokoto back to Demola in Abuja.
Jibrila for that participation. And May Nasara, you were going to land on this issue of security agencies getting involved in the election.
Yes.
Let me just give you a few minutes to just conclude your talk.
Yes, the final point I was trying to make is let us not evolve a cultural phenomenon whereby every person will go and commit whatever wrongdoing during campaign and then he goes scot-free. We want to see people penalized. We want to institutionalize discipline in the way we do our political activities, especially electioneering. Electioneering is a veritable instrument for entrenchment of people's will in the interest of national development. We should therefore not allow some people to be sabotaging it. In a situation whereby some people will cause arson, destruction of electoral offices, killing of some people, maiming them, snatching of ballot boxes, this kind of thing should not be tolerated within our polity. If you take, for example, Section 2A of the Anti-Terrorism Act in Nigeria, anything you do that will cause violence and disaffection among the citizenry is treated as a terrorist act. So by extension, there are so many penalties from the provisions of Section 30 to 40 of the Constitution that talks about various offenses ranging from 1 year imprisonment to 2 years imprisonment, 500,000 to 2 million naira. There are various components of it, but the most important thing, since the politicians have kicked against the establishment of electoral offenses tribunal or electoral offenses commission, then we would like to see the possibility of all these culprits being really apprehended and taken to the court for possible prosecution. We shouldn't see the culture of scot-free commission of crimes. Otherwise, we will be treating criminality with...
And that leads me to the next questions, that this is the season of the lawyers, the courts, the judiciary.
Yes.
Now, Boma, very soon the judiciary will be already very busy. How ready is the judiciary to handle matters arising from this election?
Oh, they are already busy because the tribunals were constituted from the get-go. So they're handling pre-election petitions, and those are ongoing. I was in court this morning, and the judge had to stand down, or rather adjourn matter, because he had 6 judgments to write within a very short period. Now the next lot are coming, which is the post-election petitions. And you know they're time-bound. From the moment they're filed to conclusion, they have to be finished within a short period of time. So it's going to put a huge strain, it is already putting a huge strain on the judiciary, the resources of that arm of government, and the ordinary, everyday litigant whose matters are being adjourned as we speak, because these judges do not fall down from heaven. They're taken from one courtroom into another, be it in the same courtroom physically, but you are now part of an election tribunal. And you cannot then carry on with your caseload, which in a lot of cases were already overwhelming. On a regular basis, certainly in Lagos, Ibadan, Port Harcourt, even here in Abuja, you will find the docket from 18, 20, 30 cases. All of those cases are now literally in abeyance until the judges who were dealing with them can conclude with these election petitions and then return to the normal day-to-day court. So the whole system puts a strain on an already overburdened judiciary. One other thing we need to look at is the logistics of moving judges from one jurisdiction to the other. So for instance, I'm a serving judge in Ibadan. I now find I'm in an election petition tribunal in Imo State. I'm given the information. Do you then ensure that the logistics are in place to get the judges from point A to point B in good time? That is something we need to keep in view, because we have to ensure that they're safe. We have to ensure that they're properly funded, whoever is dealing with the logistics, to enable them deal with the petitions. In a lot of cases, they're sent to courtrooms because there are no buildings. Think about it. Election Petition Tribunal. In which jurisdiction do you have a building that is called Election Petition Tribunal?
Okay.
Is that an ad hoc arrangement?
None. It's an ad hoc arrangement. So they're sharing courtrooms with judges who are also sitting,
so those
which then implies that there's no chambers for them to retire to in order to complete their work. There are no infrastructure around them, registry, staff, photocopiers, something as simple as that. So we really have to look at that aspect and ensure that we have a minimum standard for those hardworking judges who are going out there and dealing with this aspect of the election.
Okay, thank you. Aliu, now earlier on we were discussing about the number of political parties in this election, and looking at the huge number, 91 registered political parties, and only 2, I mean, just maybe 3, actually went to the party. Now, would you say this has actually helped in enhancing our democracy in any way? Looking at the number of political parties?
Well, Ademola, while whenever we talk about freedom of association, we want the more freedom we can actually get, the better. But enhancing our democracy by from the let me say the many political parties that we have registered with INEC and participating in the election in the way we have seen this last or this current 2019 elections that is still on actually. In my own view, honestly, I don't feel they have any role positively in impacting our democracy. And this is why I would have even loved the National Assembly to have granted us, when they were actually considering the not too young to run bill.
Yeah.
I would have and also the I would have wanted a constitutional amendment that would allow for independency candidates in this country. This would have made more meanings and more impact on the democracy, participation in democracy than the number of political parties we see participating in this election. Because the issue, I think, was people will argue that allowing this huge number of political parties, like you rightly pointed out, 91, will give more level playing fields and more platforms for people that can't go to the big 2 or big 3 because of the issues of godfatherism, or you have to have a vast war chest for you to actually contest under the big 2, 3 political parties. So there are smaller ones, so you can go. That would be the argument in support of these other political parties. But from the activities and the actions we have seen from most of these political parties, and you now have to do a cost-benefit analysis for the country, actually. The logistical nightmare INEC had to undergo because of this number of political parties, and even the heightened tension. I'm telling you, the reason why the election was postponed last week, the logistic nightmare, was all because of these political parties. Major factors, yes. And the cancelled or rejected votes, a high percentage of that high rejected vote, what were the reasons? It's because simply they were invalid votes. Why? Some of the reasons why they are invalid votes is when you take the ballot paper like this, and then when you turn print in for a particular party, once you turn printing, the ink drops to the next box or up or below, your vote became invalid. Okay. So many votes were actually cancelled because of that. So why? And why was the boxes small? Because INEC had to compress all these political parties to have them on one ballot paper. Because if they didn't, then another political party will take them to court. Why my own is behind? Or why my political party have to be on the second page? So INEC must ensure they create a level playing field, but it is a really nightmare, and also it's really it's part of the problem that cost us a lot. A lot of people were comparing, that some people criticize the last administration as, that they have actually looted the country. Mm-hmm. But why did it cost them much less to conduct their elections in 2015 and costing this administration that is fighting corruption so much? These are part of the reasons. In 2015, we don't have 91 political parties competing. And
so what is the way forward?
Is even like the actions.
What's the way forward? What's the way forward?
I'm going to tell you some of the way forward. But the thing that really that I'm not happy with the actions of some of these political parties, they use it as a business venture, not for service. We kept saying public offices should be aspired for service. Service to people, service to humanity, service to mankind. But people that launder these political parties, they do it as a bargaining chip.
Minister, do you agree with that?
No, I will come back. To the big political parties, he'll have a time to rebut if he wants to. They do it, they bargain with the big political parties and get so huge amounts of money. And the cost is on the Nigerian population. Now, back to your question, what's the way forward? What's the way forward? I feel, before INEC has in their rules and guidelines some kind of rules that limit the participation of many political parties. Like, for example, if after a cycle of election, an election cycle, if you couldn't win a number of seats, you get deregistered, and then the requirements of registering the political parties are so cumbersome before, unlike now, because people kept going to court to ask that these requirements that INEC are putting in their rules or guidelines are contradictory to the freedom of association, which they should have. And the courts, once you bring a suit for the enforcement of fundamental human rights, you are likely to succeed with courts because they don't play with Chapter 4 of the Constitution, which deals with the fundamental human rights. So this is the bottleneck that INEC kept hitting. But I suspect if I'm the one, the way forward for INEC particularly, knowing the kind of challenges they faced during this election, they will be pushing for an amendment that will have some provisions that will limit the participation of much political parties. And I think they may be doing that. They will, instead of having it just as a guideline, which when you go, it will now be problematic to enforce. They will have it as part of the amendment of the act. I think they will have to think, or they are thinking along that line. I would be so surprised if they were not already thinking along that line. I mean, whatever we do as a country, we must have patriotism, at the back of our minds. We can't continue this way, Ademola. We can't be spending billions of billions, hundreds of billions every 4 years because some few people sitting in one corner somewhere decided to cheat, to trick the system. Let's form a political party. The requirement says have an office in Abuja. You go to Karu, Yanya, or Lube, rent a one shop, pay, and then the requirement says you must have to travel across Nigerian spread. You get people who are living who are from my state, Gombe, but who are actually living here in Abuja to come with the form and let them sign, give their particulars and ID card, and then you rush to INEC. I have complied. I have an office come for inspection. It is in Karu. Well, Karu is in Abuja. Okay. It is in Lube. It is in Abuja. Then you are a political party. Okay. Then later, when an election is coming, by 2023, I will approach the big A or the big P and say, see, we have structures, we have this, I'm a political party, I will support you, our candidate will draw for you, we will do this, but this is the cost. get cool money, but the cost of processing an election with you on it when you have no value, zero value to add to the electoral system was huge on the country. And we as citizens, taxpayers, we are the one bearing that costs.
Okay. Nasara.
Yes, sir. This is a very important matter for discuss. The proliferation of political parties. You have 91 political parties in Nigeria today. I wonder if there is any living public officer, from the president to the chairman of INEC to whosoever, that as he is sitting up here, he will be able to numerically tell us the names of these political parties.
Or the logo.
So the number is ending up confusing rather than convincing the electorates.
True.
That is one. Number two, we are jettisoning quality for the altar of quantity in Nigeria. Because no nation in the world practices democracy higher than the quality of political parties they are having. Political parties are the cornerstones of driving any nation to the quality of democratic power play we want to go to. So if we want to solve this problem, and if we are doing it really for the entrenchment of robust democracy in Nigeria, we should be able to standardize the quality of political parties we have. For example, one, no political group of association that doesn't have established structures in all the 109 senatorial districts. That is the minimum. Otherwise, I will say in all the local governments in Nigeria, no political group of association should be qualified to be registered as a political party. Because any registration of such groups you do that do not have this qualification is clearly in violation of Section 14.3 and Section 224 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Secondly, no political party should be allowed, no political group should be allowed to metamorphose into a political party if they don't have standard ideology evolved as a result of articulation and integration of virile and robust manifesto of activities that will be done to the citizenry. We don't have this politics of ideology, and that is the reason why you will see all this gladiatory game of defections. People are looking at political parties as platforms of political convenience. Which of the platforms should I go to perpetuate my aspiration politically? If you are denied chance of becoming a candidate under this party, you jump into the second one. That is the reason why I say they are confusing the electorates. Because somebody that is preaching hatred against Party B, say Party B is a party of the devils. Don't be surprised 24 hours to election to see him there singing a different discordant reason against the party he's living some hours before election. Our politicians do not have ideological conscience. Ideological conscience is the driving force of any serious politician. We used to have politicians whose dramatic, systemic, and very serious, solid statements during campaigns are statements that would be able to move mountains. We used to have such politicians. But now we have politicians whose statements cannot even hold the gumming nature of a saliva. They say it today, and that is the end of it. You cannot see it tomorrow. We have to see political parties really evolve as a result of initiation by statesmen. Statesmen that have the interests and aspirations of the nation at heart, not statesmen that will go to the National Assembly, the president is bringing budget, they will now delay it for 7 to 8 months to the detriment of the benefit of the budget to the citizens. Not statesmen that will go, the president will bring about bill for establishment of anti-corruption court. They now keep it into the cooler for 4 years without even giving it a first reading. Not statesmen that will come to say that they will now trade in with the interests of the workers. 30,000 minimum wage, they will say is too much, but they are arrogating to themselves about 30 million in a month. Not statesmen that will come, the president will say, we need election offenses commission or election offenses tribunal. They kick against it because they are the sponsors of the thuggery during election. Exactly. Not statesmen that will come, you will see them, somebody as the #1 prime lawmaker in the country. He will be jumping a fence because he wants to evade arrest by a security agent, or he will be jumping inside out of a moving van in a commando style. Is that the type of leadership spirit, statesmanship we are expecting as the leaders of the country politically? So we want to see political parties that are really entrenched in quality, not in quantity. The number is really too much. We don't need such a number. If we are to calibrate them based on yardstick of really genuine standard of political competence, I do not think we need more than 5 political parties. Absolutely. In Nigeria today, if we are really serious, Nigeria in the 20 years of its own sustained democracy, for us to show example that really we are matured for democracy.
Thank you very much, Nasara, for that view there. Boma, you want to say something, because we are going to take a pause in a moment, so that when we come back, our main focus will be on the next level, because the election is won, and we want to go to the next level. So we want to discuss the next level, but I would have loved you to, say 1 or 2 things.
Sure. I mean, interestingly, when Nasara was speaking, what struck me was, we used to have leaders. Now we have politicians, career politicians. Yes. They're 2 different things. And therefore, we need leaders again. I see very few leaders amongst the career politicians. And leaders are the ones who have the people's interest at heart, who have come to serve. And really, this is the crux of the matter. So all of these things we're discussing are the effects of lack of leaders and leadership and the proliferation of career politicians. So we need to look at the cause, as opposed to just looking at the effect of these people being in charge of our country. By the time we begin to look at that, we will begin to see the solutions. We will see why they don't want electoral offenses tribunal, because the turkeys will not vote for Christmas. We will see why.
Or a goat.
That's right, or a goat for Salah.
Yes.
Or the ram for Salah. It's as simple as that. Yeah. When you're the beneficiaries, so these 128 people, or whatever number that the police say they've apprehended, they're just the foot soldiers. Who is behind? They have many more like them, who they're willing to sacrifice for their political objectives. And it's not about service to you and I, to the Nigerian citizen. If it was, they wouldn't spend so much money, resources, put lives at risk to do this. So clearly, we really need to look at the cause and get to the root cause, make it less attractive to be in political office so that we can attract true leaders with a heart of service.
True leaders with a heart of service. Thank you, Boma. We now take a pause and for the 7 o'clock news. And when we return, we still have our guest here, and we'll be talking about the next level agenda. So stay with us.